first question is who is a high performer? What does it mean to be a high performer? Yeah, while we were preparing for this, we just coincidentally I saw on Twitter someone asking question around this, and the person was asking that how do we define a high performer? Is it someone that completes his work on time? Is it someone that executes more than others? Is it someone that adds to the bottom line of the company, or is it someone that is just proactive and takes initiative? Okay, maybe we can like start with Temitope. We say ladies first. So, what do you think? Your own opinion? Who is a high performer?
So I'll just put it this way, in my perspective, right? To be termed an high performer, first of all, you even need to know your basic onion. So you need to know the skills required to complete your job. So what's my job role versus what skills do I need to be able to complete that? And how well am I meeting those expectations at the foundational level first? And then to now take it higher, because you're just to be an high performer, you're not doing the bare minimum. So you're not doing just enough to say yes, you did your job and you've done well. An high performer is definitely somebody who goes above and beyond. So there's a strong sense of ownership there, where you understand, okay, because this is my role and this is my function and this is what we're trying to achieve in the bigger picture of what we're of this solution. And I'm using that context because we're talking to software people here, right? I was the engineering people here. So this is a solution we're trying to build. On the foundation of that, so how do I play my role that ensures that not only is my own role properly done, but how do I support my team members to ensure that we're delivering results? So a high performer will not be saying things like I've done my part. You will hear that, well, I've handed it off to the next person, so I don't know why it's not coming out. There is, a high performer will take ownership, would also be flexible enough in adapting to say, okay, I've done my part, yes, but I have a team member who is struggling, and in order for us to deliver this project and say it is done, not done as per my part as finished, but done as that will deliver it to production. What do I need to do? How do I support this person? How do I encourage this person to get it done? So they are willing to also be flexible in that way to then, lend a hand to team members that might need help. A high performer is also learning all the time. So they are not stuck on I know what I know. I'm not trying to know more than what I know. They read, they are open to, they pay attention to the trends in the industry. And so based on that, they're able to use that knowledge that they've acquired to adapt in their workplace to then make adjustments, make changes. And they are very good communicators too. Because if you're doing well and nobody knows, then nobody knows you're a high performer then. So you need to be able to communicate the value you bring in a way that is clear to anybody who is interacting with you at work to say this person definitely is, doing well as well. So and being able to communicate and proactively share those information also helps you position properly. And the final thing which I've alluded to is collaboration. Collaboration is you being able to work well with several kinds of people from different walks of life. Not everybody, you wouldn't like everybody you meet at work. And that's just the truth. So being prepared to admit that I would not like everybody and we may not get along, but being able to still find a way to work pretty much in a decent way with them without having friction all the time. All of those add up to being a high performer at the foundational level. So yeah, that's my take on that. Tony.
Okay, thank you so much, Tomiwa. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yes. So thanks for sharing that, Timmy. So to be a high performer, what I've seen about high performers is that they focus on this idea of impact, which literally means different things, different organizations, but every organization is structured to achieve some random goal. You want to drive that goal in the direction, you want to drive your team towards that direction. So this means that if you were to build some product and it did not land at the thing that the business really cares about, you haven't driven impact. You've done a lot of work, but you haven't delivered impact. But if someone does the least amount of work that moves the needle in the direction of impact, that person is considered a lot more performant than you are. Because as you get into different types of roles or different companies, you find out that nobody really tells you what to do anymore. You are the one that decides the thing you should be doing. And if you have that much freedom, then you better be doing the thing that the company cares about the most. And it's usually something very impactful that drives the needle forward towards the company's objectives. Then having impact is not enough. You also need to figure out how to work with everybody around you. If you look at everyone, it's your team members, the people you're working with directly. So you need to know how to resolve conflicts and stuff like that. You need to work with your manager to make sure he knows or she knows whatever thing you're currently working on and make sure that you're not going off in a different direction. And you might even need to tell your manager, this is exactly what I think we should be working on. So you might need to set direction for where you manage for, so that your manager is aware of it. Then the last person I think you also need to know exactly where they're thinking is the skip manager, the person above your manager, because they usually have a broader view of where the company is. Depends on how big the organization you're working is. If the organization is not that big, you might just have one manager. You might even have no manager. But the most important thing is just do impactful things. I think that's the summary that I think we should have.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So your last statement says we should do impactful things. So how do I know what will be impactful? Maybe, for example, I'm a software quality assurance engineer now, and my manager comes while we're having team weekly meeting and says, "Oh, we have like 6 projects now. Maybe I'm triaging some like 6 projects, and we are trying to look." Then I now say, "Oh, excuse me, sir, please, I like that one." Now, is that what I would say? Will I fish out the ones I feel is more? Do I say more prominent? How do I know which project is impactful? What if I don't have the chance to even choose the kind of project I want to work on? So
Okay.
I don't know. If,
Yeah, so if you don't have the chance to, okay, so you mentioned 2 things. The first one is the manager said, we have 6 projects that we are triaging. Not all the projects have the same risk profile. Some are easy, some are hard. Some are very impossible, like we don't even know what to do around it. So I think for managers, the first thing managers care about is clarity. So there are 6 projects. What is the 6 projects? Is it supposed to take me 1 week, 2 weeks, 10 weeks? I don't know how long it's supposed to take. So I think you providing that kind of clarity, because you might have more experience than your manager in that field, would be like the first, like the easy kind of impact, just making sure the manager understands what's happening. Once there's visibility into things, then I always try to get things done as quickly as possible. So if you have 6 projects to triage, what's the quickest one you can get out of the way? That's more impactful than getting the hardest one that could take like 10 weeks to complete. But it's a trap, because if you're a very senior person, you have to work on the hardest one, or you don't have enough impact.
okay, thank you so much. Okay, thank you very much. So, Mr. Jojo, okay, we have another question here. Why should anyone even aim to be a high performer? One of the reasons why I'm asking this question is because I once had a colleague who said um, it doesn't really pay. So, for example, what he says is that he doesn't want to put too much effort because he knows that it just results into more work. So, what he was trying to explain was that if I just do the bare minimum, they ask me to do this, I just do it. I don't get to be promoted, but of course, I will get a merit increase. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So there's a way, like maybe in Nigeria and some other similar companies or countries, how it works is that you're either promoted, either you are an excellent performer, that means you are promoted to the next level, maybe from senior 1 to senior 2, or you did as expected, but you were not promoted, but of course you would get a pay increase. And then the third category where you are probably asked to maybe go on IDP, or you're not PIP, or whatever it's called. So what he was suggesting was that just do what is expected, just continue to get the salary increase without getting the responsibility. So it might get to an extent where you are almost collecting the same as someone that was promoted to the next role. I don't know if you get my explanation. So what we're trying to say was there was the essence of just getting more responsibility, more work, when I can always have time for my personal projects, my side projects, and all of that. So, summary of the question is, why should anyone even aim to be a high performer in the first place?
Yeah, thank you, Tommy. That's a good question. So, the way I see it is the why. I mean, there's different whys, right? So, there are, I think, what we call extrinsic rewards and intrinsic love for something. Or so the thing is, why do we do things, right? What are our motivations? So, if someone is asking, why should I be a high performer? It gives me the impression that they are probably looking at, the extrinsic rewards, and they are probably maybe giving that too much focus. And we all have reasons why we do things, and I guess like no reason is bad, but the deeper and the more honest we can be with our reason, the more, I guess, motivated we are, and to do whatever we want to do. So I would say to this, whoever is asking that question to themselves, oh, why should I be a high performer? I would say they should look at their why. What are the external motivations and what are their internal motivations? And based on that, they can, answer it for themselves. So obviously, if they are not really interested in, being a high performer for one reason or another, then it's a choice they get to make, right? Really, it's about choices. So there are very good reasons for performing highly at a job, and they are not, and I wouldn't like judge any reason as like bad necessarily. But the conviction that we have for why we are, performing in a certain way is important. We should also not lose sight of the fact that we are doing a job. So obviously there is rewards at play here, and there may be limited resources, right? I don't know any company that has unlimited money or unlimited, external extrinsic rewards. So, your manager and your manager's manager, like, Tommy was sharing, they also have their ideas for how you should perform. And if that's very clear for you, then that might even be a starting point for your why. But I think if you can go deeper, check within yourself, why do I want to be a high performer? Even if I'm not going to get extrinsic rewards here, might it help me to position myself for better extrinsic rewards somewhere else? Or do I just love being a high performer without, even the extrinsic rewards? So what's really my why? And if that's very clear, then you will very likely want to be a high performer, I think. So that'd be my take on it.
Okay, okay. So what are these kinds of rewards? Maybe you can help us break them down so that maybe we can share this link with that person. I was saying, I know there's no, it doesn't really see the need for it. What are the like advantages of being a high performer at work?
Right. I would say I like the intrinsic rewards because I feel those are the most motivating. Like if you're doing something because you love it, it doesn't really matter what's happening around you, right? Like you are super motivated and you're super excited. And what's funny is the external rewards actually eventually come along. But yeah, for me, so on that, train of thought, the intrinsic rewards for me are the deep, levels of satisfaction that you get when you do really well at anything, and the pride that you have. And the joy it gives you. If you really love coding, for example, and you solve a very challenging problem, the feeling you get from solving the problem beats any salary increment you will get, right? Like there's nothing that replaces that. So these internal and like intrinsic rewards for me are like super, super important. So you have to really figure out like, why am I doing this? Do I really enjoy it? And there's ways, right? Even if you don't enjoy it, there's ways to learn how to enjoy it. Everything I'm beginning to learn that almost everything is a skill. So even if you don't feel that way in the moment, there's a way to learn how to enjoy and to feel good about it. So those would be for the intrinsic rewards. For the extrinsic rewards, obviously companies have career ladders, have different compensation levels for the kinds of performers. There's graphs that are drawn about this. And depending on your performance, you fall in a certain place and you might get compensated adequately. So yeah, there's multiple ways to get there, to get these rewards. But if the internal isn't working for you, maybe the external might, right? Like, so the expectations that your manager has for you, and the promotion you might want down the line, or the increment in salary that you might want down the line. But my personal take is like, look inside, and there is something inside of you that wants to do that. So if you can find that, then there's no stopping you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you very much. Mr. Tomiwa, do you want to add or okay?
Yeah, Mr. Jojo is a manager, so he's very diplomatic.
That's okay.
See, me, I'm the engineer, right? Me, I like extrinsic rewards, but there's a catch, right? So you can't ask for what you are not giving. So if you want to get promoted, try to figure out what's the expectation of that promoted persona. And more likely, more often than not, you will not be doing that role in your present job. And your manager has the incentive to make you perform at the current level you're in, because every level has like significant role changes. So you're supposed to perform at that. Performing at that does not prepare you for the next one. But overperforming at the level you're currently in gives you the opportunity for your manager to find someone that sponsors you to the next band. So let's assume you're in a company that has like 5 levels, right? And level 4 says that any project you're working on should push the whole company at once. And the projects your manager is giving you are projects that push your department or pushes your product area. If you do that for the next 10 years, you will not get promoted. But if your manager says like, hey, this guy's managing the responsibilities I give them, and they told me like, hey, this opportunity that if they found the company wants to grow in that direction, they want to jump on that opportunity, simply because they are known to be a high performer, the manager gives them that opportunity, and then they do it, and that creates the proof of the extrinsic reward, which is, I think, for most managers to promote people, you need to have done the work at the next level for a sustained period of time before you can get promoted. That's one. That promotion is one. It's the slowest form because sometimes it takes like the quickest it would take is 6 months. More realistically, 2 years, 3 years, sometimes 5 years. So it's not very, very efficient. You can't be burning yourself out for 5 years. So instead, you pick on it a few other ones. The next one is it's also about high performance, but if you know exactly the problem your company is going through, also impact, spend all your energy at that problem and land it. Your manager then complain to your manager, hey, I need a raise, I need an increase, I did XYZ thing, it caused you to do this. It gives your manager enough evidence to go and ask his director or VP or something for, can we just figure out the way to compensate this person a bit more? At least they have some more evidence to drop for you. Another thing that I like, this is the one I like the most. It's kind of intrinsic, extrinsic, I don't really care about. It's basically like any work I want it to make a lot of people's lives easier. So that affects the kind of companies I can work in. Because if I cannot connect with the product I'm building, and I know that because I wrote this line of code and it landed and that button changed, that company somewhere is now a lot more productive, or that person here can now get XYZ thing done. Me, I like those kind of statements. And the better the statement, the happier I'll become. So the cheapest form of that is I saw the product, someone used it. The highest form of that is I saw the product, I wrote about the product, it showed up in the company's, what's this thing that shows up? The company's earnings call, that this thing you worked on was the direct impact of this. If you can land
NPS?
that at
You mean the
any
NPS?
point, what's that?
Do you mean the NPS score?
No. The earnings call, the one where the
Okay.
company presents how they've done. If you can land anything that shows up as one line in that report, just know that you've made it in life. Not that they'll give you money from that, but that is the highest form of impact you can drive in that company.
Okay.
And all the impacts around like just getting evidence for your manager. And if it's money that is motivating you, be very clear. Like, I want this. The person will tell you, for you to get this, do 1, 2, 3. You might not be able to do it, but if you can do it, you can get it. And it doesn't work all the time though.
Doesn't. Okay.
But it gives you the best, it gives you a lot of chances to grow exponentially.
Okay. Because one of the reasons why I'm asking that question is I think maybe I might be wrong. I've just noticed that quite a number of people are just out for, do I say, the monetary value that the career brings. They feel, okay, I want to be able to work for two places at the same time and all of that. So
Please don't.
everyone is looking everyone is looking for like ways to make as much money as fast as possible, and they don't really have the time for politics. I was promoted, I was not promoted. They only promoted five people. If you like, don't promote me. I'm collecting salary. Do you get? I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So I've just noticed that trend. So that's why I asked that question. Okay. Temitope, which is the question I want to ask is still quite similar to things um Tomiwa mentioned, but are there like maybe simple or practical steps that I can take to present myself as a high performer? Um, because Tomiwa has said quite a lot of things. Now, what if my role doesn't involve coding that is very visible? Like my output is not visible. For example, I said I'm a QA. I don't write code that pushes a new feature to production. As a cybersecurity specialist, I just give my suggestions. Okay, we notice that we need to employ certain strategies and things like that to mitigate certain risks and all of that. So there is no direct, do I say, evidence of what I've done. As a QA, I test and test. I write automated tests. I give my feedback, and now it's left for the engineering team leader or the engineering manager to okay, okay, this, we work on this projection that the QA gave us. So my let's say my output um is not very visible kind of what what's your take? What are those simple things I can do or anyone can
Yes.
do?
So I hear what you're saying, which is that if I'm not the one that is directly touching the
Yes,
code, for instance, how do I then say that this is the value I bring enough to
yes.
then justify wanting a progression of some kind or wanting the reward of some kind? I think it starts first with, and I like the fact that Jojo started with saying, extrinsic and intrinsic value, because if you understand that clearly for yourself, it helps you define how you want to grow your career. Now, I would meander a bit, but I will land it right. One, many of us start our career not knowing what we want to do. We just want to earn a salary. I'm done with school. I need a job so I can earn money and be free from my parents. And I
Mm,
don't want anybody to ask me what I'm doing anymore. I just want my own money, and that's the dream initially. And you start that. The problem is some people stay in that headspace without realizing it for so long that by the time they wake up, your peers have moved, but you're just doing what you needed to do. You're getting salary every month. One year they may promote you, the following year you might not get promoted, and that's fine. And suddenly you wake up and realize that, wait a minute, that was my classmate, but he's now running a business that is, maybe sitting on over 100,000 or 100 million USD, valuation. And you suddenly realize that, so how come this person is doing this and I can't? And I was probably even better than them in school. But bringing that back home, right? The way you would actually set yourself apart is when you wake up and realize, okay, I really do want to make an impact. I want to make a change, and I want to become that guy or that lady who is getting all the promotions or getting all the rewards. You first have to ask yourself, what's the strategy I want to use? How do I want to approach this? Do I want to become that person who is the subject matter expert in the room? Or do I want to become that person who everybody comes to because they know that I am reliable? You will choose how you want to move, and the best thing is to play to your strengths. So if you're the kind who is very good at research and you're smart at knowing everything that's happening in industry, then that's where you should play to. Now, in terms of, okay, I'm not the one that's actively making the difference, you need to understand that you're still making a difference, but understand what your role plays there. I have worked. I now work as an engineering manager, but I started out as a software developer, moved through to QA, and then landed where I am now. It's been a long journey to get here. But the truth is that when you understand the value you bring and you're able to sell it to the relevant stakeholders, you will soon have a voice in the room. You will soon
mm,
become the person they come to say, okay, we want to have this conversation, but we need somebody with your skills and expertise in the room. I want you to be in that room too. And being in that room would not necessarily be because you are at the level that everybody else in that room is at. So it could be that yes, they're all managers and you're just a senior something. But because they need somebody of your expertise and they know you're the one who has that skill, they will call you into that room and they will invite you into that conversation. And that gives you influence. And that already sells you. That's a platform and a stage for you to sell yourself. The wisdom then is that when you're called into those kind of sessions, go prepared.
mm,
Listen, pay attention to what's happening in the industry, understand what the agenda is. Don't just be invited to a meeting and be like, they invited me for a meeting. I don't even know what the meeting is about. for somebody who is trying to play to show up as a high performer. If you're not, don't stress yourself. Just show up at the meeting too, and converse as the if you have any comments. But if you know that's what you're playing for, find out what the meeting is about. Do a bit of your homework before you go in, so that when the conversation starts, it's not going to go over your head. One, two, you're going to know what is being discussed. The other thing is you need to learn how to you need to understand what your stakeholders are looking for and know how to deliver or not deliver, as the case may be. You know who you're trying to play, you know who's what strengths you're trying to play to, you know who is the decision maker in the room, and you understand how it works. Caution, I don't believe in playing politics because I don't have the energy for it. So I'm saying that to say that don't this is not about playing politics, it's about knowing that what do I need to show up in this room to prove to this person that I know what I know and to make sure they take me seriously. And this has nothing to do with you sucking up to anybody. It's just simply showing up on the strength of your competence. So I'm a QA person, I'm a DevOps person, I'm a cybersecurity engineer. And so my job is not exactly in the middle of it. But can you show quantifiable evidence of the proofs of things you saved the company for? For instance, maybe you had a product that you detected that if bad actors exploit this is what is going to lead to. This is probably the value of what will be lost based on maybe what has happened in the industry before with somebody else exploiting that same thing. And knowing the valuation of your business, you can begin to use that to quantify the value you're bringing. To then say, this is a problem that if exploited, so and so coming of this particular skill that had that problem, this is what they lost. So let's solve this problem here so that we are not at risk of that kind of. You just brought value to the room and you've quantified it and shaped it in a way that the business leaders can totally understand, because they understand naira and cover, they don't understand lines of code. What they understand is the money. Show me the money, show me the euro, show me the dollars. So when you show them how much you're going to save by making sure that this particular problem is prevented or this particular solution is implemented, this mitigation strategy is adopted, you're already showing that, see, I understand the business. We're in business to make money. And because we're in business to make money, this is how I'm going to save us money. So that's one way you show yourself as, so then you quantify, your soft skills. You cannot not be emotionally intelligent. Being able to enter a room and read the room is a skill that nobody can teach you. But when you practice it and learn it, it's a game changer. Being able to enter a room and understand that, okay, when my manager looks like this is probably what he means. When she sounds like that, something else is going on that I need to step back and understand. When I enter a meeting room and this person makes this particular gesture, this is what they mean, and this is this is where it's going to land. You're able to read the room to understand that, okay, tempers are rising in this room, so I won't escalate anything. Rather, I'll learn how to de-escalate so that we do not start exchanging words, because some people are not emotionally mature enough to actually manage their emotions even in workplace context. There's also the part of understanding that if I don't agree with my manager, it'd be unwise for me to say so in an open meeting.
Mm.
That it's easier for me to have a conversation with them, book a one-on-one with them, and walk them through, understand their thought process, and then show them why I'm thinking the way I'm thinking. Oh, why you? I mean, I noticed that we're trying to do this in this direction. What are your thoughts on it? I want to understand how we're arriving at it. And you're asking in a very honest way, so they know um you're not being cheeky about it, right? You're coming with an honest, open, curious mind to understand. And based on that, you can then ask honestly that, okay, so, oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, because CBN has said this, or the regulatory bodies have said we must implement this within the next framework, is why I say we should do this in 3 weeks. I see. But you know that we also agreed and promised our big customer, who is like our largest customer on this particular product, we're going to deliver this in the next 2 weeks. Do you have an idea how you think we can balance it? Because these are my immediate thoughts about it. Maybe we split the team in two, while one half of the team is working on this part, the other half of us are working on this, so that everybody gets. So now you're having conversations and dialogue, but that's because you learned quickly in the room that if I push this in that open meeting, I will make my manager look like an idiot, and they will not be happy with me. And so it's not wise for me to push that. So that emotional intelligence, you cannot miss it. The other thing is, um, learn how to give room for other people to also shine. Don't just be the one that I'm the superstar, I'm the rock star in the team. Nobody likes the rock star. Yes, they will hail you in public because you're on the stage, they'll clap for you. But behind the scenes, they're out tearing you and finding ways to get back at you. So learning how to give people room to also shine and not just be the superstar in the room, that you're the only one that knows that anywhere at any point is I did. Forgetting that you work in a team where we all did. You're not the only one that was up all night. Somebody else was up all night deploying that code that you wrote. Somebody else was up all night redeploying or fixing the bug that you found. Somebody else was up all night implementing the recommendations you made around cybersecurity and safety and all of that. If you do not realize that it's a team effort and learn how, I have a team member well, a colleague, because it's not, the person is actually not an engineering person, but there's a way they celebrate people that every time they do it, I'm just like, wow, I'm in awe. Like the way they see everybody who touched the products. This person is a salesperson, by the way. Ideally, I've sold, I've gone, you guys implement and make sure that my customer is happy. But this person, when he's talking about, oh, so we finally delivered this product, so and so did this one, thank you because we stayed up all night, and he will mention name specific people and their impact. Tell me how you want to meet that kind of person. Do you understand? When they say votes, you're likely to vote in favor of that person too, because this person clearly knows how to share the glory. They might not give you out of their commission, but they're able to acknowledge that you contributed in this tangible way to the success of that project. So that's how you, those are some of the basic ways at any level that you can show up and begin to demonstrate that, one, I'm a high performer, and I understand what it takes to be here. I know it's not by just because I'm that special snowflake and I'm just perfect and I know everything, but I'm able to then also acknowledge the contribution of other people as well. And the final thing is, don't overpromise. So not to say you then do the bare minimum, you know it is going to take you 2 days, and then you say no, it's going to take me 5 days. No, that's not what I mean. But what I mean is you do that thing in the 2 days, but you probably add an extra touch of, an extra flair that just like in addition. So I finished all of this, but I just said that I thought I'll have this as well, and then you give them that extra. That extra that just makes it clear that okay, I am thinking beyond just my personal convenience to say what will make this thing best, and then put that also on the table for the person. And approach every work like you're working with a customer, you're self-employed, even though your company is paying you. Approach it like I'm a business of my own and I'm serving this particular team or this particular organization. It helps you decide how do you want to show up, and it's a game changer. I tell people that I don't necessarily think about my job as a job that is paying me. It's a who is Temitope in the scope of this work? How am I showing up? And so how do I want people to see me? How do I want to be seen? And how do I want my job to be seen when I'm no longer there? I want people to see the test I wrote and be like, this person really sat down and thought this thing through in writing this detailed test. Or this person clearly understood the business, and that was why they made this decision 2 years ago that is now serving us well now down the line, for instance, because I could see and I'm thinking beyond just myself. So those are some of the steps that I think would help in the immediate.
Okay, thank you so much. You mentioned quite a lot of things, and I just want to go through them. So, first of all, you said that we should quantify our impact. Then you also said we should allow others to shine as well. Teamwork, attending meetings prepared, and contribute during the meetings, having emotional quotient, don't overpromise, and then approaching every task as a business owner. I hope that covers everything, but thank you so much. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so we are going back to Tomiwa. Hmm. So as an introvert, somehow feel that being an high performer. Can you still hear me? I feel that sometimes feel that being an over performer requires that you are like outgoing. And what if I'm someone that I like to think things through during a meeting? I don't usually have something to say maybe during the meeting. I prefer to think things through, probably write an algorithm or take notes, think, go through Notion documentation before I have maybe a response to say and all of that. Or I'm just an introvert. I don't know how to like go up and down in Slack conversations, and up and down and all of that. How do I still show myself as a high performer? Because it seems like I need to be able to talk during meetings, be vocal, be seen, be heard, and all of that. So how do I still do all of that and still be true to my nature?
That's a good question. First one, I think I used to identify as an introvert. I don't think I do anymore. But before we get there, there's a book I think this person should read. It's called Quiet: The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. I think that book kind of explains like what it means to be an introvert and what are the different things that are strengths that you naturally possess that that you could leverage at your job. Now, second part, what kind of job do you have? You could be, since it's an engineering meeting, you could be a software person, QA person, product person, engineering manager. These are different roles, right? And different roles have different talking profiles. For example, it's going to be very difficult to be an engineering manager if you cannot talk. Why? Because half of your day, actually more than half of your day, is talking. But as a software engineer, you have a different leverage point. You have different leverage points that you can pull out. For example, we all do a lot of remote work right now. And even when we go to the office, we are not always bantering with our colleagues. Much of your work is head down, but you still need to have a lot of alignment things that are happening. Now, why do you need to talk alignments? Is talking the only way to get alignment? No. In fact, I think you can get more done without talking. For example, there's always something that you need to build. What are we going to build? If someone tells you, here's what you need to build, and tells you with voice, write the exact same thing they told you down and try to frame the problem. Then share the problem in a public channel with the people that are involved and just ask them for buy-in. That is louder than a 1 hour meeting. Then, assuming it's an ambiguous situation, you've come up with something that you want to implement. Don't pull people together. Document exactly what you want to do. Then pull people in and ask them for feedback on it. Create a design doc. You as an introvert more likely can do it much better than people who talk a lot. So, and that doc leaves much longer than the meeting and gives you a lot more credibility when they're asking you for what have you done. Same way with giving praises, right? Someone can go and say, hey, nice job, good job. You could actually write it down and say, yeah, you did this, and I think this was a really good kind of thing. Put it in a public channel, tag the people involved. There's a lot you can do as an introvert that most people who talk a lot can't even achieve. But if you learn how to maximize the things that are natural or easy for you to do and use them to your own advantage, you would score a lot more bonus points than everybody else. But then that's in the async world. You now have the sync world, which is where you actually have to show up in a meeting.
Yes.
It's now, contrary to popular belief, you don't always have to talk in a meeting. But every time you open your mouth, make sure everybody listens to you. Make sure that you become that person that if this guy talks, we know that it has a lot of sense. So don't be the, hey, good mornings, good afternoon, no. And if you're still finally stuck and you'll be like, man, this meeting is going on for like 45 minutes. Everyone has said their piece. There's some senior person there that is probably going to be involved in my performance stuff, and I don't even know what to say. The two things that are very quick hacks that would always work. The first one is ask a question about something someone just said that clarifies exactly what they said. It's basically saying someone said random things. Just say, when you said this, did you mean this? That statement alone creates presence. And then there'll be like a small back and forth, and then you get your words, you get heard directly. The second problem is the one that I think you more likely encounter, which is everybody's loud around you. And if you try to talk, they always talk over you, or you talk slowly, or you take some time to frame your thoughts. In those type of situations, if you had to take your time to frame your thoughts, write down your thoughts before you talk. If you can't talk loud enough for everyone to hear you, I would suggest take a step back, go and meet your manager and tell him, hey, I have this problem. When I try to talk, people don't listen. In the next meeting, if I'm trying to talk, can you just help me create space? That's one way to use your manager. And if you don't have a manager, well, your life one down is hard. But I'm hoping that you have a manager that can at least help you like create that 30 seconds block in everybody's time. But you have to deliver. Like if they give you time, you have to come up with something solid. I think those are the advice I don't have.
Yes, thank you so much. Please, can you share the name of the question, the book you referred to the other time, so we can put that in the comment section.
Okay, I'll share it.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so moving to the next question. Please, our viewers, please provide, you can send in your questions. I've seen only one question so far. Please send in your questions either in the comment section, or if you want to ask anonymously, you can use the link we shared previously, onlinequestions.org, and then use the event number 12121. Okay, so my next question, or I don't know if our engineering manager here, Mr. Jojo, if you want to add to what they've said, from your wealth of experience, how can an introvert still prove to be a high performer without like having to change? Although it seems like we might have to change, because Tomiwa said he used to be an introvert and now he's no longer one. Maybe he can give us tips on how to be an extrovert. But what do you think, sir?
Yeah, maybe I think Yetomego gave a fantastic answer, but I guess what I can add there is it's the mindset. So our mindset is our personalities are stuck or they don't change. But we already, have one example here that it can actually change. So the ways in which we think about ourselves kind of define how we show up. So if we think of ourselves as introverts, of course, we'll take a test and it will tell us we are introverts. But then, like, if the work, so for example, if you're working, I mean, most software engineers tend to be introverts anyway, because, our work is a deep focus and that kind of thing. So you are actually in the midst of introverts and you are seeing your colleague introvert friends showing up, right? Making presentations, which means they are doing the work to bring themselves to a place where they can actually, become more visible. So yes, you can choose to kind of stay in your corner, but friends who are like you or colleagues who have similar attributes as you are actually showing up. So there is a way to do it. Maybe you can ask them some of their techniques and how they do it. So I would say I just kind of try to change the mindset a little bit and find practical ways to come out of your bubble. Usually the confidence to show up or come out comes from practice. So if you have difficulties, for example, making presentations, you have a bunch of friends who are not in the work setting. So maybe try out with them, try to do some, mock presentations, or when you are chatting together, try to be the one who is speaking more about, what you think. Basically practice this and obviously can bring this into work once you gain that confidence. And one example I like to share is I have, from time to time, sometimes done these tests, these personality tests. And over a couple of years, whenever I do it, it changes. So it gives me data that our personalities are actually not one thing. Obviously, I'm always showing up, I guess, like as an introvert, but it's a spectrum. So there are certain traits within that spectrum that we can actually train and change. And Tomiwa already gave like lots of good feedback there about how you can leverage your introvertedness to still create some visibility. But you could do as well as the extroverts on the things that extroverts are usually seen to do if you actually train that skill. It's just a skill. It's a trait that you have, and you can train, for the job to do it, right? And to appear in the ways you need to appear, to what you call it, like turn up as a high performer in that specific area. So I think that's what I could add there. It's not static, it changes.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so there's this question that I would like to ask. So how do you handle being part of a team where other team members, maybe not all, maybe for example you were moved to a new team or you joined the company afresh, and then it seems like other team members love to overwork when it's 5 o'clock or 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and you are packing your bags, but you see these people, they are still working, or maybe if you're working remotely, midnight, you just maybe went to ease yourself, and then you see someone is sending message by 11 p.m. and everybody seems to be overworking, doing some overtime and all of that. And then it now makes you look like you are not committed, you are not hardworking because you can't match their energy, because maybe due to health reasons, family obligations, especially for women, mothers. How do I handle such that kind of situation? Making it seems like maybe you are, just like I said, you are new to the team. It seems to be like some kind of trend that you cannot. Does that mean I have to resign? Do I change my team? How do I handle that? I think maybe Tomiwa can. He seems to be the Superman here, so maybe he was the one that changed from introvert to extrovert. So maybe he has some tips.
Okay, let me take a stab at it. So in my career, I've worked in companies like that with very, high pressure work ethic. And the first one, right? Before joining the company, know what you want to get out of the company, right? If you're just joining because it's a job, then just coast. I mean, you don't have to do anything. Why are you becoming a high performer? Just enjoy. If, on the other hand, you genuinely want to grow, increase, get more bonuses, get something, you need to know what you want to get out of it, right? And everything you want to get usually means doing things that most people are not doing. Or if you're very, very unlucky and you end up in a company where everybody's a high performer, then you have to you have to go way beyond what everybody's going, where everybody's going. Either think smarter than everyone or do more work. It doesn't matter. We have to overdo. Now, what does that overdo actually mean? Now, first one is play to your strengths. But before start playing, you need to know how the company works. Let's take a look at most of the fine companies, right? So you do some work, then if you do better than most of the people around you, you get rated higher than everybody around you. The rating translates into money that shows up in your bank account as a bonus. If you want more bonus, you have to do more impactful work than everybody else. But what's the metric? Impact. Some other companies are relationship driven, so they grow when people grow you. In that case, if you do a lot of work that is impactful, you score on the impact metrics, but you fail on the people metric, which means you will not grow as fast as everybody else prioritizing the people side of things. Some companies are, how do I put it? Startups are mostly customer product-ish, land something that helps us grow and acquires more customer kind of situation. If you do something that directly connects to that goal and you do it better than everybody else, you're the top performer. But if you work in a startup-ish kind of company that is trying to land customers and you're playing relationship game and you're playing it very well, you're performing highly, but from the company's perspective, you're performing poorly. Now, in the companies, when you figure out how the company works, now it becomes your own day-to-day. Everybody spends time. Some people are early birds, they start at 6 a.m. Some people like to start at 11 p.m., well, 11 a.m. Some people work 9 to 5, some people work weird hours like around the clock. Now, I can tell that very, very few people are able to hold on focus for 8 hours straight. So which means if they start at 6 a.m., they did not hold their focus straight till 11 p.m. What it just meant is that they had a lot of interruptions during the day, and at some points they balanced their day well so that they can just send this, adrenaline triggering message at 11 p.m. But they were not working throughout that period. But then what they're doing creates visibility. It shows the illusion of being a high performer. So all you need to do is, in the company I'm working for, here is the goals of the company or the kind of company I'm working in. First thing is work with your manager to just make sure what you say, what you think it is really what it is. And try to be, if anything, be very, very brutally honest with your manager. Their job is to tell you the truth. So don't be diplomatic with your manager, your immediate manager. Be diplomatic with the one above you, but that immediate manager, you want to become that person's friend, so that if you say this is what I mean, the person hears this is what I mean, so that what you say and what they hear is not very different. At least in the beginning, when you just join the company, usually when you join, there's always a lot of free room. You can do anything. Now, once you land here's how the company works, and here's my assumption of how it works, then frame your own work ethic around the impact that you want to drive. So set some goals. When you start, you might not know what to do. Your manager probably would help you and give you a few goals, but be very clear. So, dude, I want to become the top performing person in this place. Will these goals get me there? The person will tell you, yes, no, I don't know. It could also be like, I want to become friends with this particular person because that's how the company works. If I do this, will it help me become closer to this VP? You'd be like, no, she likes doing this. It could be different stories, right? But design your life around what the company really, really wants. And then if you're now in a company where the influence of the company happens at 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. kind of work, then ask yourself the question, is that where you want to work? But you can't change the company, but you can understand the company and optimize yourself for it. I think that's like how I would answer the question.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you very much. Temitope, do you want to add to that? You're muted.
Yeah, so I was just taking a breath and thinking of how to frame, if anything, I was going to add, which is the truth is you cannot really control how your team members will show, but you have full control over yourself. So when you understand that, you understand how you want to move. Yes, I've just joined the team and everybody decides that they want to start sending mails at midnight. I'm not up to read my mails at midnight. Even if I'm awake at midnight, with all due respect, I'm not awake at midnight to work. Except if I really had something that I have committed to. Because midnight is now my time to do it as I please. Whether it is to watch Netflix with my family or games night with my friends, it is not for, I'm not there to work. Don't get me wrong. There are deadlines and there are demands sometimes, which will not be all the time, that requires us to maybe do a little extra. So yes, I understand those exigencies. So let's take that out. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about regular every day. And somebody is sending mails at 11 p.m. and asking me how far. The question is, that person's time management, we need to go and check too. How well are you managing your time? Why you felt it's a good idea to send messages at that time? So, in addition to the things that Tomewa has said, right? So, if all of those are not the issues and you addressed all of those, then it's time to set boundaries, which is where I would then, nicely but firmly address the part of, I appreciate the fact that you seem to work very well late at night. So I hope you're fine. And when I say I hope you are fine, I'm not saying it from a place of I'm asking for your permission. I'll tell you that you can, I hope you're fine with me getting your response in the morning because I won't be up at that time of the night. So I typically won't see your messages then. And I'll establish that ground rule. Because what that means is that when was it Tommy that said, you woke up at night and you saw a message, why are you checking your phone for messages at night in the first place?
I'm
There's no
sorry.
emergency. Let's get it wrong. Like there's no emergency that is going on. We know that we don't have any urgent deliverable. So it's not like I'm owing anybody and nobody's owing me anything in terms of work deliverable, right? I didn't promise anybody I was going to deliver something this morning and now it is late at night and I have not delivered it. And I have not come back to tell you, I apologize. Some things came up that has made it impossible for me to deliver as promised. Give me till tomorrow, give me till next, 2 days time. So when that is not the issue and you send me that kind of message, I'm not going to, if I check it, I'm not acknowledging that I checked that message. It will be, I'll mark it as unread and wait till tomorrow morning when I'll now reread it and respond, because I've learned that you will teach people how to treat you. If I put myself under the pressure, and I learned this during COVID, we were all working round the clock. I was starting meetings as early as 7:30, and I was in meetings till 9 p.m. And you had deliverable that needed to come back in before the following morning. And suddenly I realized that no, this is not sustainable. Right now it's working, but if I look at this long haul, I'm not going to be able to thrive. And I want to thrive. I want to live long as well, both in my career and in my personal life. And so I started making separations. I and the ways it was subtle ways. If you call me past a certain time and I know that we did not have a prior anything, I don't owe you anything. I probably your call will ring off. But what I will do is the first thing the following morning I will call you back. Hi, I missed a call from you late last night. What happened? Guess what? Half the time, a good percentage of those calls that I did not take last night, the person was like, oh no, don't worry, it's not an issue. So I learned quickly that people would sometimes make their own importance your emergency, and then put you under the pressure of, oh, I need to get this to this person, but it's not even important to them like that. So if I waited 8 hours and I call you in 8 hours time after I slept and woke up and you told me, oh no, don't worry, it's not a problem. Clearly it was not a problem last night. So you just didn't have boundaries enough to know to hold on and ask me in the morning, because you think we're all working from home anyway, so it's okay to just flow in and out of my life like we live together in the same house and have the same schedule. So understanding that is key. And so there are times when you might need to set that kind of boundary for your team members to let them understand that, okay, I'm available and I would respond where it is urgent and important, but don't make it a habit to expect me to show up and respond real time every time to everything that is going on with you that may not even be a problem in the first place. Then the other part is also be efficient at your own self, at what you can communicate properly. What does that look like? I know what is on my table. I know what I'm supposed to deliver so that Tomewa can finish his work. And I know what I've committed to Tomewa to say when I'm going to do it, right? Then I think the decent thing I should do is I keep Tomewa in the loop so he's aware of where we are per time. And if I'm going to be running late, then I start telling Tomewa in time, Tomewa, I know I was supposed to close this thing out by 2 o'clock today. However, the manager has given me this extra thing that is going to delay me. So I can't get it to you by 2 o'clock anymore today. Give me till tomorrow morning to give you feedback on it. I've managed Tomewa. So Tomewa doesn't have any reason to be looking for me. Now, in terms of overworking team members who are just, very into working too hard, Tomewa has already solved that, has given us an idea of how to approach that, which is understand the culture of where you work and understand what is expected and then know how to play around it. I joke that I'm a lazy person, so I find the shortest answer or the simplest solution to every problem that comes my way. So it doesn't mean that I'm not going to try and deliver, and you will see me deliver my result. But the difference is that you're not going to see me die over it, because I don't like to die over anything. I want to live a long life. Like you have you, I'm sure you've heard me say it a lot. This because I really mean to live a long life. So if I'm going to live a long life, I need to thrive in every facet. And it does not mean that I have to. There are many ways to kill a rat. It doesn't have to be only by the trap or by stoning it. So I find the simplest solution that solves the problem in that way. If it means I need to optimize maybe my calendar, if it means I need to optimize when I send my mails, I schedule some emails to be delivered in the middle of the night. Since you all want to see mails in the middle of the night, I will respond and I'll schedule it and it will come in the middle of the night so that you know I'm also busy. If that's what will make it work. So understanding the same you play and knowing how to play around it is very key. And don't be too stuck in your ways of this is how I work and no other way. But also be willing to understand your team member so that where there is a need to honestly, pitch in, the person has an emergency that came up. Yes, they were at fault, they didn't plan well, but now they are dragging you in. Where you can support, but have a conversation later. I appreciate that, and I'm happy to help you. But if you really want me to help you well, this is how we can work together better. Give me heads up. Let me help you during the day, because during the night I may be doing something else. Because for instance, maybe personally you're running a personal development course that they've devoted your midnight hours to. That's why you're up. But now somebody decides that because they saw your Teams is green or your Slack is green, they decide that they need to start chatting with you at that time of the night. I don't think that's fair. So being able to balance those two, so that's just what I'll add to what Tomewa has said. If everything else he has said, you've implemented it and none of those things are the issues, then it's time to set boundaries and set them very nicely, very firmly, very politely.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. This next question, I think this is our last question here. We still have one question from one of our attendees, but this question says, "What's the best way to navigate situations where sharing feedback or asking questions from my manager or team seems to backfire?" So, for example, let's say I'm a new team member and then I'm trying to ask questions, but they are expecting that I should know these answers. Maybe because of my previous experience. So let me just give you more context. So let's say, for example, I'm a senior and I'm asking questions that, yes, a senior should know, but maybe because I don't know because I've never worked in this field before. So I'm asking those kind of questions. And then if I ask questions, they're like, "Ah, why should you be asking this question?" And then, okay, if I go ahead to do the task the way I've always done it, maybe from my previous teams, previous companies, then it kind of backfires and you're like, why didn't you ask? So you are afraid to ask questions. You are afraid to go ahead to do things the way you know how to do them. What do you suggest um, that person can do, Mr. Jojo? Maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. So, just to reframe it, if I understand, you're asking how do you approach a situation where when it seems that there's an expectation that you should know something, but then when you ask questions, you might appear incompetent.
Yes.
And then when you don't ask and you just go and you act or you make a certain decision, then it's like, oh, why do you do it this way? So it's like you can't win wherever you go, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, context really is everything. So in such a situation, you kind of I'll take either side. So usually when things look contradictory or like it feels like a paradox, then you start to feel stuck, right? It's really difficult. So you can break it into the two different parts and then try to improve both of them. So the first part of the question is about like asking questions. So it might mean that it might be a question of how you're asking questions. So you have a question, if you just like immediately blurt that question out, maybe that's the problem. Like, how much thought have you actually given to that question? Have you done some research? And what was the question leading you towards? As in, is it a reference-based question, or is it a how to do something like a process-based question? Things like that, right? So if you think enough about it, you might get a lot of answers. A practical way that I have used that really helps me is I write out the question for myself first. So I ask myself the question, like the question that I'm about to ask someone, I ask myself first, and then I try to respond to it. Usually that opens up your mind to ask new questions, right? So the quality of the question improves after you do that, a number of times, after you make a certain number of iterations on the initial question. So by the time you're going to ask for help, like you've answered a lot of questions and you have a lot of work to show, right? And with the question you're about to ask. And on the other end, about decision making, let's say you indeed asked, yourself a lot of questions, and then, you're really confident and then you took action, but it was the wrong action. Usually that means that you probably don't have that authority. Like the decision making within that context probably doesn't belong to you. Maybe it belongs to your manager. Maybe it even belongs to your manager's manager. So depending on the context, on that side, you might want to do all the work and then present the options so that, the decision maker actually is the one who makes the decision, but you have done all the previous work. So you look at it from both sides. That's how I would approach this.
Okay. Yes. Thank you very much. That reminds me of something we are pointing out to the mentees during our onboarding call. So I made that mistake too earlier in my career too. So maybe I was having issues maybe with a setup. Maybe there's a new maybe a new tool, and then I'm following the Notion doc. So just say provide this command, then enter, then download this. And so usually those Notion docs are not very explanatory. And then before I'll just say, it's not working, please someone help. Then everyone is wondering, it's not working. But we are all using it. Like 859 of us are using it. It's just you that's having that issue. So from experience, I just got to know that I had to kind of rephrase. Maybe there was an issue with the way I was asking. So I would say, oh, I'm currently working through this Notion document. I've tried this and this and this. These were my output. Am I missing it somewhere? Is there a missing step that I might have omitted? And I say, oh yes, indeed. Sorry about that. We forgot to add that precondition to the Notion document that you should have installed this before even going. So it doesn't make me look like do I say the word stupid, or it doesn't make me look you don't know what you're doing. So I just figured, just like you said, trying to read the question to yourself, rephrasing it, and then presenting it in a good way. Mr. Tomiwa, do you want to add to that?
I think Mr. Jojo landed spot on this. I think two fringes of how I express the same problem is the first one is around making a decision, or I put it as asking people for input when I don't even know what the right questions to ask is. So one thing I try to do in every job I get is I try to lose my title. So if you hold a big title, people expect a lot from you. If you tell people you don't know anything, they try to help you. So from the beginning, you have to lose your seniority. And I try to make sure I'm not senior at all in every job I stay in. Like, I don't want the title. So what that means is that if I'm very, very clueless, I learned this idea called the strawman concept, where you bring a bunch of smart people into a room around the problem. Well, which you have to define the problem first, but if you can define the problem clearly, bring everybody into a room and then propose the most outlandish solution to the problem. That would provoke everyone's, I don't know, anger to the point where they start correcting you, like, that should be this should be that should be this. And the thing you need to know how to do is, from every correction they give you, you need to improve the picture until the point where everyone's anger is out and you end up with a good plan that everybody just aligned on. That's one method I used to work with when there's a lot of people who are smarter than me in the same room and I'm supposed to know stuff I don't know. Then let's put everybody's knowledge in together and then let's see how well that goes. The weakness or the important ingredients to that kind of solution is, one is psychological safety. Like, you people need to be able to talk without killing each other. The second one is the problem needs to be very defined. So I also learned about this concept of an engineering brief, where you just define the problem in the exact way you know it. Don't write any solution, just say, this is this problem, this is how the problem looks like, and here's why it's a problem. And then the strawman is the solution to the problem, and the skill you bring into that is, how do you capture the feedback everyone is saying into improving the solution? If you can do that well, then you have your first level alignment, and then I think you can make progress from that point.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for that. So, as we wrap up, is there maybe this will be like the last, maybe in three? Do I say 3 points, 7 points, 5 points? You can just itemize them. What are the things you want to maybe tell the listeners or viewers what they can do to probably showcase themselves as performance at work. So maybe in 3 points, 5 points summary as a closing remark. Maybe we can start with Temitope.
So now you didn't give me time to think of these 3 points. So I'm just going to blurt out what comes. Don't worry. I'm just kidding. Don't worry. So I think the first thing is at any level you attain in your career, emotional intelligence will always be valuable
Mm.
at every level, whether you're a rookie or whether you're a mid-level engineer or you're a senior engineer or you're a staff engineer or you're even a VP, you would always need emotional intelligence. So the sooner you acquire that competence, the better. And the reason why it's necessary that you acquire it early is because there is no school you would that would actually teach you. Emotional intelligence would come from practice. You will make the mistakes, you will learn from the mistakes, you will adapt, you will adjust, and then you will eventually come to a good place where you no longer throw tantrums in the workplace, you no longer get angry and ask for guys like, let's meet on the streets because we cannot say these arguments officially, we can't have it in the office, so let's meet outside, you know. But once you develop emotional intelligence, you're able to manage a lot of different people and different temperaments. You manage up, manage down, manage sideways. And so that is key. That's one key competence you have to acquire. The other thing is, the truth is that becoming a high performer can be engineered. There's a
Wow.
science to it if you really want to do it. You just need to sit down. One, you need to be willing to do the hard work of being quite introspective and sitting back to look at what do I need to achieve? What do I want to achieve? Don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean we all practice these things, but in the spaces and times when you practice it, you will see the result. It's as basic as saying, who do I want to be and how do I want to show up in my workplace? What's maybe you could say what's the brand you're trying to build as a person, and then
Wow.
work backwards. Who do I want to be in the workplace? How do I want my work to be recognized? For me, it's simple. I don't want to finish work and then somebody comes and redoes the same thing I've done because I didn't do it well. And so that can look in many ways for in different spaces. If it's in testing, there's what I need to do. If it's in developing the strategy for my team, there's a difference to what that might require from me. But being willing to do the hard work to say, okay, how do I want to show up, and what is the result I want to see? How would I know I've done it well? Being clear about that. The final thing is, which kind of fits into the initial thing I said about emotional intelligence, is you need to be able to read the room
Mm.
to understand what is how does the system I'm in work, irrespective of where I've worked. If I change jobs today and I go elsewhere, in the different places in the several places that I have worked, the expectations, the work culture, the norms are different. I've worked in a place where you don't call anybody by their name. Everybody has you either call them by their initials or you call them Mr. Something, Mrs. Something. I've
Boss.
worked in places where everybody is first man and first name. And if you call somebody by anything other than their first name, you will get I've had my at the time I was a very, very like I don't know, rookie compared to somebody who's like the I could call him at the time deputy managing director. And I remember I said sir to him and he warned me never to do it again.
Wow.
Right? And it never left my memory. And you would argue that, oh, but you're supposed to respect your elders. Yes, but these people say no to it. So you don't do it. Being able to read the room to understand, it's as basic as I work in a place where when it's time to argue and debate what needs to be done, nobody's looking at your title. Just speak politely, be respectful, but nobody wants to know I'm Mr. This or I'm Mrs. This. How can you talk to me like that? We're trying to solve a problem here. Throw in everything we need to throw into it. When we solve the problem, we move. And nobody's coming back to be like, how dare you talk to me like that? Now, the mistake I will make is to then go to a place or go to the former place where they expect you to be called Mr. And then I talk anyhow in the same meeting and expect to be taken seriously. So being able to read the room and understand what's the culture in this organization, how do we move, how do we suggest problems, how do we solve problems, what's the approach, understand it and then know how to play around it. You don't always have to color within the box, but if you don't understand the box, you will not even know where to color in the first place. So those are the things I will just, close. Those are the points I will close on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So Mr. Tomiwa, well, for your perspective, so maybe your point should be directed to someone that is not just starting. And many of the question was revolving around someone just joining a new team, a new company, starting out freshly, maybe in their career and all of that. Maybe your points now should be directed to someone that's probably already working in an organization for like 10 years, or let's say 5 years, and then person feels stuck and now feels he needs to be a high performer. What are those 7 points or 5 key points that the person should work on to just upgrade their career?
If you're stuck 5 years, that's a long time. Okay. But if you're stuck at the same role or the same level for 5 years, and you might have the same manager, different managers, doesn't matter. At the point where you decide you want to change, I think the first thing to do is have this honest conversation with your manager. And I think the thing you want to get out of it is set goals, right? So you have your personal goal. I want to be promoted. I want salary. I want this. I want visible. Define the goal very, very, very clearly and make sure your manager agrees with the goal. Now, you have to then come up with if I achieve this, this will land what I want, right? But I don't know how to do it. So let's work together to figure out the how. If you know how, it makes your life easier. If you don't know the how, bully your manager till you figure out because that guy knows, or that person on top of you knows the answer. They might not tell you what it is, but they know how to. They know because they see other people. So there's enough information showing in front of them on what's a high performer at that time. I think that you want to partner with this person first to figure out the how you should get to the goal. Then the rest becomes your work. Based on the goal, I think that during the next goals need to have like some time period frame, right? For some people, promotions might be slow cycles, like it would be once every 2 years, and you joined that. You decided to do this 3 months at the end of time. It's not possible. Be realistic with the goals. Now, once you agree on the goals, the next question is like, especially in engineering, your manager doesn't manage most of the things you do. It becomes your work. So deliver the things you want, deliver the items that are on the goal, but also broadcast what you're doing. So your manager can advocate for you, but if the person your manager is speaking to has not seen what you're doing, it's a much more difficult sell. So broadcast and show exactly what you're doing. So you broadcast as much as you can. And then to help your manager also make a case for you, I try to maintain this concept called a brag doc, which is every week, say exactly what you did and how it contributed to where you want to get to.
Okay.
That should be like the thing go
Sorry
on.
for interrupting because I'm taking note. This brag doc, will I be sharing it every day, every week with my manager, with the team?
No.
How will I
The
do
brag
it?
doc is your one-to-one with your manager. So if your one-to-one is not a brag doc, I don't know what you're doing, but your one-to-one should be, this week we did this, or this is the new problem. Next week should be, we solved this problem. That should be what your one-to-ones look like.
Okay.
So your one-to-one, there's always, most companies have performance cycles. At the start, goals, we still line on the goals, checking on the goals, we're still looking good. Then it becomes bragging, like, how do I create evidence towards the goals? The evidence could be, go on.
Sorry for interrupting. What if my one-to-one is not every week? What if it's every 2 weeks? Do I still notify my manager? Okay, this is what I did this week towards my goal, things like that.
I think the minimum amount of cadence you should have with your manager is every week, sometimes twice a week. If you're very, very senior, though, then it usually is no longer once a week. But for most people's careers, you can meet your manager every week.
Okay.
And try to, like, your one-to-one is not, hey, how did you go? Did you go golfing? Did you go swimming? He's not your friend. Your manager can be your friend, but that's not what you should talk. There's enough time to do that. It's serious. This is my goal. I want to get this. Can you help me? The person should say yes or no, like it's impossible. But so that at the end, because you might do everything you want to do, you might do all the work correctly, you might create correct impact, but the company doesn't have budget. That could happen. But you want to make sure you're putting your best foot forward. And because your manager is not sitting with you every day to know what you're doing, your best foot forward means communicate very candidly, clearly, be brutally honest, be very, very, don't be diplomatic, be very, very honest. At least with your manager, with your team, be diplomatic, but your manager, you have to be I want this, I don't want this, so that you rather upset the person in day one and they know, than tell them in week 12 and they're like, what have you been, what, this was not what we agreed on. That's the second one, which is the next one. And the final one is this concept of ownership, right? So owners get rewarded. I don't know how it works, but if you genuinely care about your company, your products, your business, and you see yourself as the agent that is driving it, people, it's very, very difficult to convince anybody else, like from the CEO down to the, I don't know, wherever it is, that you're not valuable to the company. If you care about the company at that level and your work actually directly looks like that, it's very difficult. It's very easy to communicate the same story to everyone across the whole level.
Okay.
Just doing the job your manager told you to do. The skip manager asks you why, you don't know, you just said, I'm doing this, then you've lost it has broken the train of communication.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Jojo, the engineering manager, everyone has been talking about. So it seems like, because the last webinar session too, most of the conversation revolved around manager. We I think last week we talked about advancing our career and all of that, and then I think in summary, what we could just the conclusion of the discussion was about a manager too. So, what do we do in a situation where we don't have the manager, the ideal manager? Maybe we have a manager that is also in the middle of their own personal, maybe life, they are in the midlife crisis, maybe they are in their 40s or 50s, or maybe they have small kids at home, so they have a lot of things they are dealing with, picking up their kids. They just got a mortgage, they are moving apartment, there is a lot of politics at work, they are still battling that. Their manager don't really like them too, so there's just a lot going on, and then it's not the ideal scenario for you to. So what is your suggestion in that situation for me that I'm trying to be a high performer?
Yeah, actually, that's like the perfect setup to be a high performer because you just mentioned so many opportunities. If the manager is like, I guess, busy with life, a little bit distracted, this just means there's so many things you can help them with, right?
Okay, yes.
And no, not picking their kids, but but as in it is because they are distracted, which is why maybe they aren't really there, or fully present at work, or as engaged as you'd like them to be with you. So typically our demeanor is, oh, my manager should help me do this, or my manager
Yes.
should do this for me, right? That's the mindset. So basically a high performer wants to be the person who shifts their mindset. A lot about this is how we think. So shifting the mindset to, oh, my manager is not, I mean, it is their job to support me. Yes, that's what they are paid for. But I want to be a high performer, right? So I change my mindset to become what high performers do. So high performers perform whether or not their manager is, there. There are moments in your career, or at least I remember a few moments in my career where my manager is not there. And I did some of the work that he does. And then when he came, I made a presentation to him that, hey, when you were out, this is what was going on. And managers really, really appreciate that because it's like to what Tomiwa said about the ownership. Like when you take that ownership, it always gets rewarded. But again, I'll come back to the why thing. So why are you doing all of that? If your why is strong, you will be a high performer. I think Tomiwa gave us a lot of great information about the how. But if you can really dig in and understand your why before the goal setting and everything, it makes it much more effortless because whilst you are doing the how, life will happen, things will happen, right? Which are not great. Everybody is going through something, right? So things will happen, but then you go to your why and then it reminds you, this is why I'm doing this, right? And then, you can keep going and keep performing regardless of the external circumstances. So I think that's what I could maybe add to what Temitope and Tomio have said.
Okay, wow. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. This has been very insightful, at least for me. And I hope that has been for the same too for the viewers as well. Just making sure I didn't miss any question. Somebody was asking Okay, somebody asked for the name of the book. I think we've already provided that. Someone was also asking how they can their homework to get a job as a QA. I'm sorry. What homework should I do to land my first job? Homework. Okay. Uh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that really relates to our conversation. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything in 1 minute. Landing their first job as a QA engineer. Maybe you can. Okay, Tommy, I wanted to say something.
I was going to put Temito up on the spot.
Okay, okay. In 1 minute, ma.
Me too. Me
Interesting.
too.
Interesting. Very
1 minute.
interesting. Now I know that you guys are sellouts. The first joke, when I saw the question, I was like, this Bobina actually assumes that everybody actually has a job, is why they're trying to be high performers at their job. So if you're trying to get a job, maybe that's a different conversation. But just to speak on it, to land a QA job, I would say go for skills that would carry you through. One of those skills is critical thinking, critical analysis. Hone your critical analysis skills. I am big on the soft skills. If there are some soft skills that if you have, even if you don't have the technical skills in the door, they will get you far. Critical analysis is one of them for a QA. The other thing is being solution focused, meaning this is a problem, I can see the problem, but how do we present it and solve the problem? So how you suggest solutions to the problems you're encountering as you're testing. The other thing is communication. You know, Tommy mentioned something about you're going through the documentation and you're like, it's not working. Nobody wants to hear that their work, that what they've done as slaved over is not working. So how are you communicating the fact that this code is buggy and we need to solve this problem without making your developer look like an idiot? Those are skills you need to learn. When you learn all of those, you would practice how to write automation, and because automation tools are a dime a dozen, you will learn plenty. You will use different ones for different situations. So I will not push you too much to be focused on those things. Those soft skills are the ones that set you apart. Anybody, I joke that I can train anybody on functional skills, but it's harder to train anybody with soft skills. Being somebody who is solution focused, somebody who has ability to actually dimension problems, critically, look at the problem and then come up with possible solutions that would actually be impactful. Nobody can teach you that if you don't practice it yourself. It's going to be hard to learn. Then, but in terms of basic skills you should acquire and that you can acquire to be a good software tester that gets in the job, understand software development lifecycle, understand the functions that the role that a QA person plays on that team. You're not a gatekeeper. Don't get carried away. You're there to actually deliver working, reliable software. And so when you understand that and you know how to deliver that per team, because to vary per team as well, that would get you a leg in the door. The other thing is understand the basics of software testing, things around the various techniques you can use in testing, and there are many. Unfortunately, I cannot start listing that here now, but things like there's one big English boundary value analysis, which is basically checking around the edges. What are the problems that in the middle is fine, but once I get to the edge of the edge cases, what happens? Understanding that is key because it helps you get quickly into the middle of where the problems can be. Half the time we're looking at, for instance, in payment systems, you're saying when today if you try to do transactions in Nigeria, 5K and below probably won't get charged anything. But anything above 5K, you're probably going to be charged 10 naira plus VAT. Anything above 50K or thereabout, you're going to be charged 50 naira plus VAT. Those are the edges that if you do not check well, you might realize that you're losing you're costing your company money if you're unable to check those edge cases. So being able to understand those edges and knowing how to navigate around them is key. Understanding the edge cases of every scenario you're testing, really. You cannot it sets you apart. Then go and acquire basic database skills. Understand how to navigate a database, how to retrieve data, maybe how to update data, how to delete data in databases, and understand APIs. How do APIs work? What are the ways you can secure your APIs and those things like that? They are basics, but it would go a long way. But I think for that person, really, they need to speak, maybe have a one-on-one with Tommy or somebody who can, that will then drill down finally. But this session was not really tailored towards that. But I think those basic things I've mentioned would help you get started at the very least.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I hope Mr. Babalola or Lalikon is not a mentee, just joined us, but I hope that has answered your question. So thank you very much, everyone. Okay, let me just